My father told me when I was young, don't play with fire, be careful, son. But we were flames and fell in love. We burned the cities down, down. Fire learned you listen. You won't be lonely if you fall in love. Over and over again and again. My mother told me when I was young, we soon inspire a sorry son. So fragile, like it was built to break off the handle. How'd we get to this place? We're leaving everything behind for new and exciting feelings, but I won't leave you. Will everything we know be lost and changed for something new? Only time will tell, but I'll be holding you. 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 Let's slow down. I wanna live right now. I'm not worried, thinking about tomorrow. I'm feeling everything I need from you. It's all I believe in. I know you feel it too. Will everything we know be lost and changed for something?
Testing, testing. I'm gonna have to pull the phone up and do an audio check before I turn off the webcam here. Going to go ahead and pull that up now, so apologies for any sort of audio jumps or whatever. See, a little quiet, so I'm gonna crank up the audio here. Okay, that should help out a lot, but it still looks a little on the quiet side. So we're gonna go ahead and okay, that should help out a lot, but it still looks a little on the quiet side. Okay, so we're gonna crank this up a little bit more. 210%. Hopefully now we're still the meter is showing it pretty quiet. So I'm trying to just get this audio where I want it. This should be pretty close to as good as I can get here. Just trying to find a good placement for the mic now. This should be pretty close to as good as I can get here. Just trying to find a good placement. Okay. So this sounds good. We're gonna go with this audio setting here for the mic. So let me just go ahead and get the chat loaded up on my computer screen at this time. Alright, so unlike normal shows, this one's going to be done by myself. Currently, my other two co-hosts are busy at this moment, so I'm not able to, and I don't want to hold the show back for at least one of them to show up. So I'm just going to go ahead as planned, especially since I have to work after Caffeine and Octane tomorrow. I want to stick to as strict of a schedule as I can. So this episode is going to be done just by me, and if any of my other co-hosts decide to show up during that time frame, then we're going to of course have them show up and be in the show, obviously. But for now, it's just going to be me. So anyway, okay. So There we are. Start image is off. We are now ready to begin. So, hey everyone, welcome to another Caffeine and Octane Pre-Show podcast. It's episode 9. We'll be covering quite a few stories in this episode. Mainly the big three are Ford, who's unveiled a new small truck, the Nissan Juke, and its death in the United States, as well as the Dodge Challenger Scat Pack 1320. Now that story was perfectly chosen for Michael, who cannot be here right now for reasons that I don't want to talk about on camera. Not anything like terribly bad or anything. He's just busy right now and cannot be here. Same story with my other co-host Hayden. But the Scat Pack story was something I thought he'd be interested in talking about. And obviously, since he's not here to talk about it, then hopefully he will show up before too long, and we can go ahead and have that story, like have Michael's take on that, because like I said, that's a story I thought that he would be very big on giving his thoughts on. So anyway, basically this episode was going to have an overlay. I'm going to go ahead and display it for reasons that the guys aren't going to be here to use it. So I'm going to crank this down a little bit. So this is how it would look for future episodes, episode 10 and onward. As long as all three of us are here, this is what you'll see for me, Hayden, and Michael appearing on screen here. And of course, this box up here will be used more than likely to house stories and stuff. I may have to do some tweaking to get rid of that, but it might use it to house images of what we're talking about. Of course, it might block Michael's head, obviously. So anyway, that's the overlay. And then, of course, as you guys already noticed, the new start image, and we also did the new BRB image, which is this one, which is basically the same thing as that, just with different wording. So I just wanted to show you guys all that before we got started, because I just, ever since the luring video, I've wanted to start doing a little bit of not a full-fledged rebrand on the channel or anything, but just some refreshed images and ways to make this podcast better than it has been in the past. Obviously, since my co-star with me, I can't use the overlay. Also, it'll just look awkward just having my name on screen, or having all three of our names on screen, but only one person standing here in front of the camera. Also, just a note, there has been a host change. A lot of you guys have noticed Hayden's appearance on the channel more with this podcast series. He is basically with Cason right now. Lots of stuff's been going on in his life with a breakup most recently. I'm not going to get into too much details out of respect for Cason on that one, but he has not been able to attend any of the podcasts. In fact, he is not able to go tomorrow, which in other words means he couldn't come tonight. So as that's the only reason he would be here on the podcast is if he was going tomorrow, which is why last few of since he was of course going out of town with his girlfriend or whatever, he wouldn't be on the podcast. So that explains everything with that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail out of respect for Cason. And that's why Hayden's kind of taken over on the podcast in his place. Because of course having 3 hosts makes the show that much more enjoyable. Having more than just me on the show makes it much more enjoyable, I think. And that's why I usually like to do it with all 3 of us. But like I was saying, tonight Hayden's busy. He's helping his parents out with some stuff, and Michael is not here at this time. He might show up later on in the episode though, so we'll have to see. But that's basically that. It's just kind of just an update on the series itself. There's, like I said, there's going to be a host change. It's Hayden's basically become a permanent part of the show as of the creation of this overlay, because it has Hayden's obvious username on it. So that's that. That's basically that. I just wanted to get that out of the way now before anyone starts going back and watching previous episodes of the podcast, or trying to watch all the episodes in succession and notice that a host has changed. And I just wanted to get that out of the way. Keep in mind, Cason will probably appear in more episodes in the future. This is not like he's done with the podcast. It's just he's kind of taking a hiatus from it, and that's fine. There's no there's absolutely zero bad blood between any of us. Cason is just he's going through a lot right now, at least from what he's told me. So he cannot be on the streams at this time. But anyway, with all that said, I've been going on for who knows how long now without actually getting into what this podcast does, so let's go ahead and start. So the first story I wanted to cover was the new small truck that was announced by Ford recently that they're working on. There's no other details besides this small truck. And there already is a mid-sized truck in the market, which is, of course, the Ranger. So a new small truck would be, anything. It could be finally what I've been wishing, and I even made a full video about it, the return of the sport track, which would be cool. I think it would be great to have the SUT starting to come back, especially with the Ridgeline still in production. And I think besides the Avalanche, the Ridgeline is the longest running SUT because it's the only one that didn't necessarily exit production. They just kept that first gen going forever. Of course, that's a Honda thing. Honda loves to keep body styles going for a very long time, unless it's the Civic, which they replace every 2 years, it seems like. But like I was saying, another small truck from Ford. It could be anything from a return of the Sport Trax is a completely new model to go alongside the Ranger in that same sense. Now, I would be kind of confused on a return of a Sport Track because everyone knows Sport Tracks are 4-door SUTs. That means the Ranger, which already has 4 doors, would make it'd just be interesting because I don't know. It's just a very interesting concept that Ford's wanting to make another small pickup on top of the Ranger. And there was only 2 Ford midsizes in the 90s, early 2000s, and that was the Sport Track. So and of course, I think I said 2 small midsizes. So there would be the Sport Track and the Ranger. So who knows what's going to happen, but we'll see in the future. Of course, at this point, I would ask the others for their thoughts, but of course, I can't because they're not here. But like I was saying, if it would, like I've said in the video before, where I talked about the possibility of a Gen 3 Sport Track, I would say that I would really appreciate if they did not put the 2.3 in it. The 2.3, I believe, is a decent motor at best. I would say they're powerful, they're great, but when it comes down to it, the reliability problems the 2.3 has is what weighs it down, and that's why a lot of people are concerned with the new Ranger because it only is available with the 2.3. Are we going to be seeing an issue like we have seen with the 2018 Mustangs where they're breaking motors or breaking transmissions? Granted, the Ranger's probably not going to see the same problem as the transmission, even though if I do remember correctly, it is using the 10R80, just like the same transmission that's in the Raptor and the Mustang. And I've heard 10R80s are having issues now as well, so we might see a very similar stab with the Ranger. It might be another one. It might be one of the Ranger's biggest faults going into it. Granted, we haven't entirely seen the new Ranger. In fact, I've only seen one on the road since the announcement, and it was a base model Ranger. I was on my way back from Florida with my family a couple months ago. So that's that. It's a very interesting concept. If they do another Sport Track, I'd like to see another V6, V8 kind of deal, especially if the new Explorer is going back to rear-wheel drive and body on frame, which would be nice, because that'll get back to, its lineage. It'll get back to right where it was. Again, it's probably going to be an automatic-only vehicle, just like the originals were. Probably is going to be the 10R80, which wouldn't surprise me. It'd be interesting to see not even a 3.7 because that's out of production as well. I don't think there are any current Ford Motor Company vehicles that use the 3.7 anymore. Something like the new 3.0T, the new twin turbo EcoBoost 3-liter, which is of course replacing the 3.5. Something like that for a V6 option, and maybe like a Coyote motor option for a V8 truck, so we can get something very similar to like we did with the 4.6 Sport Tracks of a couple years ago. So it'd be interesting to see if they do that. I'm not entirely sure what we're gonna see with that. Hayden is actually dealing with family stuff right now. He's not like family problems, but he's helping his parents out with something. That's why he's not here. Anyway, Michael's in the chat, which is why I just abruptly answered that question. So we're gonna move into the second one, which is the Nissan Juke. And if I know for sure, if we had everyone together right now, there'd be an uproar. Talking about the Juke right now, it'd be an uproar. It would just be a mess if the Juke was if I had said that with everyone here. But anyway, the Juke is gone. It's finally met its end of production here in the United States, at least. Nissan, when that car came out, was convinced that youths are gonna like this car, where most youths want a 240SX remake. Instead, what we got was the Juke, and it was a car that I knew was gonna fail from the very start. I mean, these things looked really bad. They did not have good engines. The only thing that the Juke had going for it was the Juke Nismo. That was literally it. And even that was a very expensive, very hard to find car. And only people who liked the Juke that much, but were also car enthusiasts, were going to buy them. which is why I've only seen like one or two that I've seen in person since they came out. The Juke Nismo, at least I've seen tons of Jukes because they sold, but they weren't what the youth was looking for, and Nissan was very convinced of that, and that's why they went ahead with it, despite the fact that it was very, lack of better words, ugly. And another cool thing the Juke did have though is it did have a manual transmission option, which for a crossover is a very I think it was the only one in the class that had it, a manual transmission, because the Ford Edge did not have one, the Ford Escape didn't have anything like that. I don't believe the CRV did have that. I don't even know if the CRV is what I'm thinking of. Yeah, the CRV is the crossover because the Pilot is the full-size SUV. But I don't believe there are any other crossovers besides the Juke that had a stick shift, and it was a very very interesting situation with that car. But hopefully now that the Juke's gone and Nissan's probably going to be reevaluating what they think the youth wants, we're probably going to see, hopefully a more enthusiast-related car here in the near future. With the death of the Juke, it opens the door for a possibility of a 240SX remake. It opens the door for possibly, a Sentra SER return. That was one of my favorite cars as a kid. Playing in Need for Speed Underground 2 was the SER Spec V Sentra because I thought it was interesting. It was a very interesting car. Turbo QR25, the thing was just a rocket in that game, and I really enjoyed driving them around in video games. So maybe we'll see a return to that now that the Juke's gone, and Nissan's probably be looking for something that still get the youth market. I mean, Toyota had a very similar approach, but not with a crossover, but with an entire brand, which was, of course, as we all know, Scion. They did have the little crossover, which was the XB, and they had the XA. But most of the car guys were not looking for the XA or XB. They were looking for the TC and the FRS, which, of course, the TC met its end just abruptly. And the FRS lives on as the 86 still here, as it was in other countries. The U.S. was the only place you could get an FRS. There was no other way you could get a Scion outside of the States. So, anyway, that's that. So yeah, the Juke's gone at long last. I mean, I would say, because like I said, not a lot of people liked the Juke. A lot of people thought the Juke was ugly, and such as my parents, when we were looking for first cars, I was trying to avoid CVT cars. The Nissan Altima, the Corolla, the Yaris, the Maxima. But my parents were trying to avoid Jukes. So it would be, hey, what do you think about this? Oh, that's a Nissan Juke. I'm not going to look at that. Or then they would come to me, what do you think of this thing? And I'm like, oh, it's an Altima. I don't want to touch that. So that'd be kind of like our arguments as we went when we were looking for cars. And that's that. The Juke was a big failure to me. And yeah. But anyway, I guess we'll move into the final story a little bit earlier than I expected. Like I was saying, if everyone is here, we'd probably be just now finishing the Ford truck story. But anyway, we're going to move into the final story, which is one that Michael, who's in the chat, I believe, right now, he's messaging me on Snapchat, I know that much. I don't know if he's actually still in the chat in here on YouTube. He was a moment ago. But we'll be seeing... we'll be definitely seeing him type in that chat here in a moment. He's probably already seen it in the title. Is the Scat Pack 1320 Challenger. Now, Michael being a Scat Pack owner, the 1320 is just a little bit bigger, like not bigger, but tuned to be a bit faster than a standard Scat Pack. It's meant for drag racing, which Challengers in general are meant to do. Michael will argue that, but they are not track cars. To say the least. Cars that weigh 48, 50, 100 pounds. Granted, Michael's car has a lot of horsepower for what it is. For a big family sedan, but at the same time, it's not a, like track car. It's not a Miata or an S2000 or RGTR even. It's a very heavy, very good for straight line speed car. And that's exactly what Dodge has gone for. I mean, you've seen with the Demon and the Outlaw 1320, these cars are meant to go in a straight line. and Dodge even thinks that. So we'll be seeing the Scat Pack 1320 here very soon. That's actually a Dodge that I've really liked recently, besides the Charger Daytona, as I'm a big Daytona fan from the '60s. If you ever showed me a Dodge Daytona Charger from the '60s, I'd be all over it. But you know what I mean. The Charger Daytona is basically the same thing as a Scat Pack, just with a different livery on it, and it's going to hold its value a lot better than the Scat Pack will. No offense to Michael, but the Daytona's got that lineage to it, and it's going to hold its value a lot better. From what I remember reading on it, the 1320 is going to be using the 8-speed from every other Dodge product when it comes to the Charger and Challenger over the last couple of years. I haven't seen any sort of information for a manual version of the 1320 yet. It might be just like the Demon, where it did not get a manual transmission. I know everything. I think all the other Challengers, I think with the exception of the Challenger GT V6, which is the all-wheel drive V6, they all got a manual option. They all came standard with the automatic, for obvious reasons. The 8-speed is just insanely great, and it's a very, very good transmission. But everyone's gonna have that manual option. There are gonna be guys, for example, Hayden, who will buy manual-only cars for the rest of his life, and that's just gonna be that. We're gonna see a lot of cars switched to automatic only, which is kind of lame, to be honest. I like having manual cars. I mean, I don't own one, but I'd like to get one day, and I would like to get something that's also modern at the same time. Give maybe 10, 15 years, we might not have any more manual cars left in the world that are produced. Of course, we're gonna have manual cars on the streets still, because people are gonna keep them. But besides that, really, I think the 1320 is gonna be a very good car. If there is a manual option, they're gonna be really good. They're probably still gonna sell. Probably just not as good as the automatic, because most people who race in drag racing want that automatic for that consistency and the not having to worry about botching your shifts. Manual transmission drivers, in drag racing, it's very skill driven. That's why a lot of people I've talked to that are stick shift owners that want to drag race say that having a stick shift car makes it a lot more fun, because you're having to fight you're having to train yourself in a sense to drive, because driver mod basically. You're having to teach yourself how to launch, teach yourself when to shift, stuff like that. And versus a guy in an automatic, you just foot on the braking gas, let off the brake, and you're gone, And I mean, for consistency, for some of the best times, automatic will win it. But for just the challenge, the manual is a lot more fun and a lot more of a fighter in a manual race. And that's what I guess was why a lot of people still drive stick shift cars in drag racing. It's just the fun factor. You get to really have to fight yourself to try to beat those autos. And I don't blame them. And I will say that once my sport track's done, I'm going to be building a manual drag car, because I really want to experience that as well as having the automatic to start with. Basically, as I've said before, the sport track's going to be built for just getting used to the idea of drag racing. Something that'll just get my foot in the door. It's not going to be anything that's just going to produce 1,000 horsepower and go destroy the entire world. But after the sport track is finished and I have more money, I'll start buying more manual related cars. Of course, the Honda Beat is up there, but you'll never see me drag race in Honda Beat, because that would just be it would never win anything, because 650cc 3-cylinder is not going to win any races against any sort of Scat Packs with turbos on them or whatever. It would probably be something along the lines of a Mustang, to be honest. It's really, for drag racing, it's one of the best platforms to go with besides Corvettes, I would say. I think Corvettes are probably the best American chassis you can go with for drag racing. But with that said, pretty much we've covered all the stories we've had ready for today. So we're going to move into the live Q&A portion of the stream. Basically how this works, as you can see in the description, there are 2 rules, which are just, keep everything family friendly, no offensive minded questions, no do you prefer this race over this race, because obviously I'm going to say the same thing every time. I don't have a preference. Semi-offensive questions, you know what I mean? And just, I would say stay on topic, but the reason I made the Q&A separate from the entire series, from the rest of the show, was to make it to where you could ask pretty much anything minus those offensive questions. Obviously I'm not going to answer political questions, religious questions, racial questions, just out of you know, with the world we live in, I don't want to get involved in any sort of thing and get involved in the arguments or anything like that. So, anyway, with all that said, any of y'all who want to start asking questions in the chat are more than welcome to, and I'll do my best to answer them to the best I can. So, while that's going on, we'll be answering some messages here and all that. So, basically, like I was saying, this show has been very fun. I've really enjoyed making the podcast series, and I've done a lot of modifications to the series in just the day. Would I want to drive the Subaru? Absolutely, dude. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you've probably seen at this point me driving Jake's car and Hayden's car, and Hayden's car has a blown clutch. Like Hayden's car, well, not really blown. If it were blown, it wouldn't be moving. But you know what I mean? It's a very dead clutch in the S2000 right now, and I didn't even install it. So I feel like the Subaru would be a very cool experience because again, I've driven Michael's car, so I've experienced near 500 horsepower in the driver's seat. Not entirely because I was in my neighborhood and I didn't get a chance to like really let her rip. So I mean, I would not mind driving the car. It'd be a different experience to say the least. 2 useful gears. You're probably gonna have to baby that car the entire way to Caffeine and Octane tomorrow. To be honest, you're gonna have to use like. Oh wait, that's right. You said you're slipping in fifth, so I mean you're really gonna have to only use first and second. So you're probably gonna be in the far right lane the entire way there. Just trying to keep yourself from getting the middle finger. It's a very interesting predicament. Oh, you're bringing the Miata. Okay, I was about to say. The Subaru. If it's apparently, the clutch is gone, I would not drive it to Caffeine and Octane. But okay, so I'm on Instagram just waiting for questions to come in, and I've seen a S2000 with a big turbo 2JZ on it. So it's a drag car, obviously. It looks absolutely mental. I know Hayden probably would cringe at it because it's been swapped, and Hayden's very, very big on keeping the F20s in those cars. See, there's not a lot interesting on my feed. Lower stance. Now, I'm not a big fan of stance, to be honest. I would probably go low because my problem with stance is I just think that camber itself should only be done in moderation. Having 70 degrees of camber is just absolutely ridiculous to me. You're going to wear out tires. You're going to make your car a rolling road hazard when you do a crap ton of stance like that. At least 2 degrees, I think is pretty good. I would say that's about where, my limit would be on how much camber can you run on a car safely. Camber itself, with a lot of camber, you're losing your contact patch of the road. So conditions in the rain, if you have a car such as, say, like a 240SX or a 350Z on stance, with a lot of camber in the rain, you're just asking to wreck because you already have a car that's notorious for being very tail happy. And then you get a very small contact patch in poor road conditions. You're just going to spin out and possibly crash. So I would say low because at least with low, your contact patch is pretty much the same. So you're not going to be seeing any sort of loss of traction, any sort of dangerous behavior from the car. The car is going to behave just how it's meant to be. Maybe a bit more rough on the ride though, for sure. I've noticed that a lot with the truck. Ever since learning it, has become a bit more harsh. I don't mind it because it's not to a point where I can't stand it. But it's definitely noticeable compared to stock ride height. So, but like I said, I don't mind it. It literally just isn't that much different. It's just more stiff. And one thing I have noticed is since the suspension is so stiff now, I'm actually like my engine rattles the dash at cold start, which is a very interesting experience because the truck sounds like it wants to fall apart whenever I'm sitting there at cold in the interior with the windows up. So, but basically, like I was saying, too much stance for me is a little bit like too much stance to me is like over 3 degrees. Once you get above 3 degrees, it's like you're really gonna screw yourself because you're gonna have that small contact patch, like I was saying, and the car becomes extremely dangerous. And I couldn't do it. And plus, I've just never been a big fan of camber. I mean, when I first started seeing stance cars, I was like, what the heck? Like, it almost looks like they've broken their suspension. And I guess that's why I don't like it. I mean, if your car is bagged and you have a lot of camber, then that's fine, because that means you're not driving around like that. That means, you're getting ready to leave, you air up, and your tires can go back to normal, and you can go places. But, like, if you're static stance, like, if you're using, like, coilovers, for example, with camber arms and stuff like that to get all that camber out of it, it's very dangerous. You're literally losing that contact patch, and you could wreck pretty easily. My neighbors just decided to start blasting music out of their house. It's actually kind of annoying. But that's that. But basically at this point in the show, we're pretty much about to wrap up anyway. I got to get up early in the morning I got to get up about 4:30, and I don't function without 8 hours of sleep. So what I'm going to be doing is I'll probably wrap up here and then get ready for bed and hopefully be asleep by like 9-10 o'clock. So basically, hopefully I'll be able to meet some of you guys there at the show tomorrow. If you're new to this channel and this is your first time seeing any of my stuff, be sure to go check out my actual videos, because I know that the quality seems kind of poor on this, because this is a 720p webcam on my laptop and an old Logitech headset. This is actually not my usual headset anyway. I usually have a G230 gaming headset, but it kind of broke and disintegrated. It's sitting on my floor over here. $70 for the headset, and it just shattered, and like the plastic cracked and it just gave out. So can't really use that anymore. But like I liked it, so I might pick up another one. This isn't even a Logitech. This is a GE headset. I just realized. But my other videos are filmed in 1080-60, obviously, for obvious reasons. It's the only way to film these days. So I'm just getting it out of the way now, because I know a lot of you guys are probably very confused on why my normal videos are way better quality than these are. Another thing I wanted to bring up before we close out for the night in this show is the GoPro footage from the Seafoam video. Basically, just to get that out of the way, the GoPro I have is not an actual GoPro. I've said it before, it's a knockoff. But for $75, it's a very good camera that you can use. And the only drawback is the white noise the camera produces, which is why it was very strong in that video, the white noise. It's because I had to crank the audio gain up because you can barely hear me. We're not planning on meeting up at like anywhere other than the food depot where the meet used to be. We're meeting up with practically the entire like group. We can at least, with the exception of Kaysen. Kaysen can't go tomorrow. I'm trying to think who's all going to be there. As far as I know, it'll be me, Michael, and Hayden will be there. One of Michael's coworkers as well, who might be selling me something for the truck very soon. I want to check everything out, and I meant to go today, but I just had a lot to do. So I was going to go and look up some stuff that this guy is thinking about selling me. I haven't met the guy, so hopefully he's cool, but Michael says he is, so I'm going to take his word for it. I trust Michael, so. With all that said, like I was saying, I don't know who's all meeting up with us. Michael has said he might invite Live for Games to go with us on the cruise. We're going to be cruising in, obviously, so I don't know the entire plan, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, you guys will see in the vlog. So, with all that said, I'm going to close out with just speaking on the vlog. This will be the 19th Caffeine Octane vlog, I believe, from what I've counted. And I'm going to be putting a lot of time into this one, because with how my new videos have gone, I want to start doing a bit more editing work, despite, I'm trying to say, despite work. I work a lot right now. I've worked 25 to 30 hours a week for the last few weeks. I know that doesn't sound like a lot to some people, but for a part-time job, it's a lot of work. But I know they're just getting their stick out of me before school starts, because I'll be working probably 20 hours a week, every week once school starts back on the 20th. So I do have 3 days off next week, and I'll be spending probably 2 of those editing the Caffeine Octane vlog as we go. That's gonna be that, and I'm gonna be putting a lot more time into these. As you guys saw, I kind of hinted at the fact that I'm gonna be starting to work on these more with the title sequence in the 18th video. Now that's nothing new to the Caffeine and Octane vlogs, but I wanted to try it out a bit more. I really liked how they came out, and originally I thought the video was the 19th vlog, so I had actually first rendered it out as the 19th video with 19 in the title sequence until I realized it was the 18th video. So I went back and re-rendered out the entire video just for a split second on screen of the title sequence. So yeah, we'll be meeting up at the Food Depot where the meet used to be. I believe about 5 o'clock, and we're leaving there at 5:30. So Dalton, there's just your time thing. Message me on Snapchat if you want a reminder of it, and I'll text it to you so you can know what time we're meeting up, because we're not waiting past 5:30. Michael's very big on that. So with all that said, like I said, the Caffeine and Octane vlog will not be out till Tuesday, which is unusual because usually I upload them on Sundays. But due to the fact I have to work directly after the show, I'm literally gonna have to come home, get changed, and go straight to work. So that'll be that. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed just this big stream. I know it wasn't as big as the last few Caffeine and Octane podcasts with the absence of my co-hosts, but we'll be doing our best to, of course, make the 10th vlog even better. So, well, that said, thank you guys again for tuning in. And if you're going to Caffeine and Octane, I'll see you tomorrow. But if not, I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Take care, guys.